We know Kuala Lumpur today as the modern capital of Malaysia, a metropolis of soaring towers and sweeping elevated expressways. But beneath that modern facade lies a much older story. A story shaped by rivers, railways, tin ore, commerce, and empire. It is a living monument to the ambitions of tin mining pioneers and colonial administrators who could never have imagined what the city would become today. In this virtual walking tour, we take a step back in time, back to the colonial Kuala Lumpur of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Using contemporary video footage from today, with historical photographs, postcards, and maps, I will talk about the places where the city's stories were shaped, buildings which still stand around us. This will not just be a catalogue of crumbling old buildings, though. It will be a magical journey through space, time, and history. So, join me now for a virtual walking tour of colonial Kuala Lumpur. There is really only one sensible place to start our stroll through colonial Kuala Lumpur. Where else would any well-heeled and refined visitor to Kuala Lumpur commence his exploration of the city, if not here, in the old-world luxury and civilized comfort of the Hotel Majestic? Built in 1932, it was at the time the largest and grandest hotel in Kuala Lumpur, unrivaled for its prestige and luxury. The Majestic was built to rival Singapore's Raffles Hotel and Penang's E&O Hotel. It originally featured 51 rooms, boasting then modern luxuries such as long baths and hot and cold showers. Its custom-designed furniture, silverware, and furnishings were all imported from England. Even today, afternoon tea in the drawing room is a ceremony unto itself, with scones, sandwiches, and the delicate scent of Earl Grey wafting amidst the clink of fine china. The Majestic has played host to glittering soirees, distinguished diplomats, and savants of distinction. In a snug corner of this stately building lies the writer's room, where literary minds such as Somerset Maugham and Graham Greene are said to have found their muse. The hotel was also a regular stopover for other luminaries such as the then Prince Charles of England and the quintessential Englishman, actor David Niven. We now leave the Majestic Hotel, turn left, and it's less than a minute's walk to the graceful administrative offices of what used to be the Federated Malay States Railways. Across the road from the Kuala Lumpur railway station, the FMS Railway Administration Office was designed by the renowned Arthur Benison Hubbock, the architect responsible for many of Malaya's iconic landmarks. It was one of Habak's last government buildings and his final work in Kuala Lumpur before he left for England to fight in the First World War, never to return. Construction of the office building began in 1914, 3 years after the railway station's completion, and finished in September 1917. Like the railway station, the building oozes Habak's signature Indo-Saracenic style. A central dome with a cupola crowns the building, with 3 other domes on the staircase towers, and 4 other smaller domes just for good measure. The 3-story facade features architectural delights such as arched arcades, pointed horseshoe arches with pilasters on the ground floor, semicircular arches with triple columns on the first, and interlocked pointed arches above. The porte cochere, the entrance porch if you prefer, is flanked by minarets and small chatris, while keyhole arches add some exquisite ornamentation. Today, the building still serves as the headquarters of the Kereta Api Tanah Melayu, or KTM, the main railway operator in Peninsular Malaysia. If we cross the road now, we'll find ourselves standing before one of Kuala Lumpur's most theatrical buildings. Of all the scenic vistas of Kuala Lumpur, it's perhaps the railway station that surely captures the imagination of any foreign traveller. Standing like a confection of domes and minarets, and clad in white as though for a wedding or festival, the station was completed in 1911 under the guiding hand of the aforementioned Habak. It was actually the 3rd railway station built to serve the city. Its style, Indo-Saracenic in flavour, evokes the romantic East as dreamt by empire builders of the time. The upper part of the building comprises the station's hotel, with large winding staircases leading to the 16 luxury bedrooms, the first-class waiting rooms, and a spacious refreshment area. The station's platforms serve 4 railway tracks, which are covered by large steel-framed roof shelters. The roofs were originally of glazed glass and were partially open to allow smoke from steam locomotives to escape. As beautiful as it is, the station is more than just an Orientalist's fantasy. It has conveyed sultans, governors, businessmen, planters, and common people alike, and it was instrumental in breathing life into the economic arteries of colonial Malaya. Today it remains an architectural wonder, like a freshly baked cake covered in buttercream icing in the midst of Kuala Lumpur's concrete urban sprawl. Leaving the station behind, we walk towards the river as the rumbling sound of traffic gradually gives way to the calm of flowing water. Here, at the riverbank, Kuala Lumpur's story truly begins along the banks of the Klang River. The Klang River, about 120 kilometers long, is Selangor's longest river and Malaysia's 8th longest. Rising near the Klang Gates Quartz Ridge in the backbone of the Malay Peninsula, Titiwangsa Range, it flows through Kuala Lumpur before reaching the Straits of Malacca at Klang. Kuala Lumpur's origins are very much tied to the river. The river had been a tin source since Portuguese times, and its confluence with the Gombak was a vital transport and trading hub for the metal ore. However, in 1857, Raja Abdullah brought Chinese prospectors up the Klang to Ampang, and this sparked a tin mining boom that transformed the small settlement. Rivalries over who controlled this trade led to the brutal Klang War from 1867 to 1874. Warfare devastated and depopulated large parts of the town, and it opened the door to British control of Selangor when a British resident was installed there in 1875. The river's volatile nature also helped shape the city, with the flooding of its banks being an almost annual occurrence. As increasing plantation agriculture and development of towns upstream cleared large areas of forest, flooding became more significant and devastating. This led to extreme events such as the Great Flood of 1926, which submerged large parts of the city under almost 6 feet of water. Flooding continues to occur well into the modern era, with particularly large floods occurring in 1971 and 2003. Walking along the left bank of the river, past the central market, we turn right towards Kuala Lumpur's venerable Old Market Square. Originally an open market for the early inhabitants, it grew to become a centre of commerce for the town, with the Kapitan of the Kuala Lumpur Chinese community, Yap Aloy, setting up his business premises on the southern side of the square. Later, some of Malaya's largest mining, trading and financial corporations established their offices on its perimeter. The most prestigious of this was the headquarters in Malaya of the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank at the north end of the square, which was constructed in 1912. This building was demolished in 1973. The market square is distinguished by an elegant clock tower erected in 1937 to mark the coronation of His Majesty King George VI. Conceived by Arthur Oakley Coltman in the fashionable Art Deco style, its geometric features, sunbursts, and vertical embellishments speak of both modernity and optimism, a beacon in the gloom of the Great Depression of the 1930s. Looking up at the surrounding shop houses, we see they echo the Art Deco sentiment of the clock tower, with the angular grace and rhythmic symmetry of the shop house gables, coupled with a certain old Dutch elegance. Ominously, though, the square also possesses a far darker history. During the Klang War, as rival Chinese clans fought for control of the nearby tin mines, mercenaries and other fighters were paid by the head. To claim their reward, they were required to present the severed heads of their enemies as proof. These grim trophies were brought here to the market square itself, where they were gathered in piles, counted, and payment duly made. Think of that the next time you're walking there after dark. A short walk from the market square back to the riverbank brings us to the point where two rivers meet and where the city itself was born. The Jamek Mosque is serendipitously positioned at the birthplace of this vibrant city, the confluence of the muddy rivers Klang and Gombak. It is this geographical feature from which the city draws its name, Kuala being confluence or estuary in Malay, and Lumpur meaning mud. Built upon an ancient Malay burial ground, its Moorish domes and arched colonnades were again the brainchild of the ubiquitous Mr. Havoc. The Sultan of Selangor himself consecrated its foundations in 1908 and opened it with a solemn ceremony a year later. It was the town's largest mosque and served as the state mosque until the national mosque, Masjid Negara, was opened in 1965. Before Masjid Negara was built, the Sultans of Selangor would come here for their Friday prayers, and the royal dais still stands in the prayer hall. Though now completely surrounded by a tumult of roaring motor vehicles, elevated rail tracks, and a forest of soaring glass towers, the mosque still retains an air of hallowed tranquility, a sanctuary amid the din of urban life, its leafy palms and murmuring river presenting an oasis of cool calm that reminds us that this is a city with a soul and its own unique spirituality. From the mosque, we now turn left towards what is now Dataran Merdeka, and we find ourselves standing before one of Kuala Lumpur's most recognizable silhouettes, the Sultan Abdul Samad building complex. Constructed in 1894 for the British colonial administration, it was then known simply as the Government Offices. It was officially opened on the 4th of April 1897 by the first Resident General of the Federated Malay States, Sir Frank Swettenham. A distinguished bronze statue of the man was once located at a far corner of the building complex, but was later moved to the grounds of the National Museum after independence. Renamed the Federal Secretariat in 1948 and later in 1974, the Sultan Abdul Samad building, it remains one of Kuala Lumpur's most iconic landmarks. Though formerly credited to A.C. Norman, much of the design was by R.A.J. Bidwell, with input from, yes, it's him again, A.B. Hubbock. The two-story F-shaped structure has a 450-foot-long facade, with an imposing 135-foot clock tower at its heart. The clock was imported from South Croydon, Surrey, in England, and was built with the purpose of replicating the famous Big Ben of London. That clock chimed for the first time in 1897 to coincide with Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee Parade. The building later became the site of independence celebrations, with the new flag of the Federation of Malaya being raised in front of it when the clock struck midnight on August 31st, 1957. Further architectural treats await the visitor curious enough to explore the perimeter of the building complex. Flanking it to the right was the Kuala Lumpur General Post Office. To its left are the Old Magistrate Courts, Old City Hall, and the Federated Malay States Survey Office, which carried out detailed surveys and produced detailed maps of rapidly developing British Malaya. These buildings were all designed by the clearly overworked Mr. Hubbard. Crossing the road and leaving the Sultan Abdul Samad building behind us, we now walk towards a quieter corner of the Dataran, where brick and stone speak of another side of British colonial life. In 1887, the dignified Anglican Church of St. Mary the Virgin was originally a modest timber edifice atop the nearby Bukit Aman Hill. It was replaced by the present brick and stone structure in 1895. This sanctuary, built so as to be in proximity to the parade ground, the Selangor Club and the government offices, was the first such church of brick and stone in the Malay states, outside of those in the Straits settlements. The pews and ceiling are made from local timber, merbau and seria wood. The stained glass panels were removed and put in storage during World War II to protect them from bombing. However, they mysteriously disappeared after the war, so new panels had to be commissioned. The organ within its venerable nave was constructed by the esteemed Mr. Henry Willis, who also made the organ for St. Paul's Cathedral in London and the original grand organ of the Royal Albert Hall. The church has frequently received royal attention, the late Queen Elizabeth II herself having graced its pews on 3 separate occasions in 1972, 1989, and 1998. Just a few steps away from the church, we now walk to the building where many of its congregation relaxed and played. Founded in 1884, the Selangor Club served as a meeting place for educated and high-ranking members of British Malaya's high society. While most early members were British, admission was based more on education and status rather than race. One of its original founding members was the Indian businessman, Tambusami Pillay. Originally a simple palm-roofed building, this was replaced in 1890 by a 2-story structure designed by A.C. Norman, then rebuilt in 1910 by Hubbard in mock Tudor style with 2 new wings. Nicknamed the Spotted Dog, that name is said to derive either from a poorly drawn leopard emblem for it that was mistaken for a dog, or from 2 Dalmatians that guarded the entrance owned by the wife of the police commissioner Captain Sayers. And talking about wives, women were originally not officially allowed to be members of the Selangor Club. The club had long been a male preserve, a gentleman's club in the strictest sense, with women relegated to the Selangor Club annex nearby. Even then, women were not officially allowed into its legendary Long Bar until an extraordinary general meeting in October 2023, when the No Women rule was repealed. But for more than a century, the bar had a sign that read, "Ladies and children below 18 years are not allowed." Sport was central to the life of the club, and it fielded teams in cricket, rugby, hockey and football, all played on the Dataran Merdeka Padang, right outside its doors on a daily basis. It even hosted the inaugural Malaya Cup football final on October 1st, 1921, when Singapore defeated Selangor 2-1. In 1997, the ground held the distinction of holding 10 matches of the ICC trophy, and the following year it held 5 List A matches as part of the cricket competition at the 1998 Commonwealth Games. Walking along the perimeter of the club, we now reach the grounds of the Kuala Lumpur Public Library, where the former government printing office is located. Completed in 1899, this beautiful building was where government reports, official government books, notifications, and even train tickets were printed. News from England was also printed here, as well as local news in publications such as the Selangor Journal, the official journal of the Selangor government. The building is in an architectural style called Jacobean, ornamented with Dutch-style gables, red brick, and long rectangular windows divided by stone or wooden mullions, often arranged in rows across the facade. This was quite different from the surrounding public buildings designed in Hubbock's ubiquitous Indo-Saracenic style. You might have noticed that windows of this building are unusually large. As this building was completed at a time before electricity was widely available, the printers needed all the natural light they could get to assemble each page of the newspapers and to do the typesetting. The interior was also designed so that it could house printing machinery, in addition to the offices. Because of this, its interior had no obstructing columns running in the middle of the building to accommodate a large printing press machine. Just beside the government printing office is a building that once safeguarded the financial heartbeat of Colonial Kuala Lumpur. Completed in 1909, this building housed the main branch of the Chartered Bank of India, Australia and China, later known as Standard Chartered. Founded in London in 1853, the bank was the first to open in Kuala Lumpur, beginning in 1888 above shophouses on Market Street, before moving in 1891 to this more secure site near the police headquarters. Its first single-story premises soon proved too small, leading to the present 3-story structure opening in December 1909. After the Great Flood of 1926 had subsided, Millions of dollars in notes and documents had to be spread out across the field to dry, with armed police having to stand guard over the hoard at all hours. The bank remained a major financial hub of colonial Malaya until the 1960s, when the bank was relocated elsewhere. Just across the road from the bank, at the corner of the Selangor Club, Padang, we find a little treasure very often overlooked by visitors to Kuala Lumpur. The Queen Victoria Memorial Fountain was shipped from Britain and sent to Malaya to commemorate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897. Ironically, it was not assembled on site until 1904, by which time the Queen had already died. The delay might have been because it was originally intended to be located in the market square, but the police thought it would cause a traffic obstruction there, so it was set up on the Padang instead, in front of the bank. The Art Nouveau tile work of the fountain reveals 8 cast iron lions and dragons sprinkling water at their mouths. The colors of the tiles used were meant to represent the colors of nature: green trees, blue skies, and brown earth. This fountain has a sister fountain having the same name, which is located in the city of Malacca. Looking across the road to the opposite corner of that junction, we then behold the first headquarters of the Federated Malay States Railways. The Federated Malay States Railways marked the shift from fragmented local and state railways to a unified peninsula-wide railway system. Malaya's first railway line opened in 1885, transporting tin ore from Taiping to Port Weld in Perak. Kuala Lumpur gained its first rail service the very next year, in 1886. Construction on this building began in 1904, and it was designed by, you guessed it, A.B. Hubbard. The 2.5-story structure features the red and white brick banding that Hubbard later used in Jamek Mosque. The main entrance is flanked by pylons topped with chatris, while the corner stair towers are crowned by domes, which are in turn surrounded by smaller domes. The Federated Malay States Railway Central Office moved in 1917 to the new administration building opposite the Kuala Lumpur railway station. This building later reopened as the National Textile Museum, showcasing Malaysia's textile heritage through galleries of fabrics, clothing, and multimedia presentations on production techniques. We now walk across back to the market square and turn right to the Central Market. Kuala Lumpur Central Market was initially conceived by the redoubtable Kapitan Yap Aloy as a humble wet market in 1888. But the original structure then gave way to this much grander construction in 1937. The hall stretches some 401 feet in length, at the time the largest building in the city. It also featured the latest in technology for the time, such as special sections for fish, pork and other meats that were cooled by the new miracle of electricity. A distinctive feature of its architecture is the 1930s French Art Deco style. This was a design style that emerged in the 1920s and 30s, characterized by bold geometric and angular shapes, sleek stylized lines, rich colors, and the use of colored glass or chrome. One just needs to look at the Central Market's main entrance to see all those design elements on grand display. The colored glass used at the Central Market is in fact rather unusual. It is bluish-grey Colorex glass, a marvel of technology then, which tempered the sun's intensity while permitting daylight to stream within. Colorex glass lets in only 20% of the sun's heat, but allows 60% of daylight in. Ordinary glass normally transmits 70% of the heat and 86% of the light. The market was very nearly demolished in the 1980s, but a public outcry helped convince the government to convert it into a cultural bazaar instead. Today, the market has evolved into a marketplace of cultural treasures, housing over 350 shops that offer native handicrafts, charming art objects, and souvenirs and curiosities sufficient to amuse even the most jaded globetrotter. And with that, we come to the end of our pleasant stroll. Thank you for joining me on this virtual walking tour through Colonial Kuala Lumpur. I hope that in tracing its streets, rivers and buildings, as they still stand today, we have caught faint echoes of those who walked them long before us. Above all, I hope this journey has offered not only a sense of the city's geography and architecture, but also an appreciation of the stories that shaped the city and the people who live here today. If you've enjoyed this walk on screen, and you happily find yourself in Kuala Lumpur one day, I can wholeheartedly recommend doing it properly, on foot, in real life. My good friend Pritam runs Legacy Walks Enterprise, which offers a guided walking tour that follows almost exactly the same route we've explored in this video. What makes a walking tour so special is that it's not a rushed cookie-cutter tour, but a small, intimate experience shaped by careful historical research, local knowledge, and a genuine love of the city. It blends architecture, historical anecdotes, and lived experience, led by someone who knows Kuala Lumpur not just as a guide but as a KL native and a seasoned traveller herself. I've included details of the tour in the description below. Finally, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do consider giving it a like, sharing it with your family and friends, leaving your thoughts in the comments below, or subscribing to join me on future adventures exploring the lost chronicles of Malayan history. You can also help support the channel by becoming a channel member, or by going to the Malayan Chronicles Patreon site and joining as a guardian of the Chronicles. Until the next video, I remain as ever, your grateful chronicler. Cheerio.